There was a British lawmaker named John Wilkes in the 1760s. John Wilkes was an open critic of King George III and published a circular known as the North Briton. When he published North Briton number 45, he was arrested. He was arrested because he was too critical of the king and his ministers. Lord Halifax had him arrested. Among the topics of his criticism were the fact that King George III and his agents were using things like writs of assistance and general warrants. And if you're not familiar with those things, they're basically warrants that say there are crimes that may have been committed, go find evidence related to them, have fun. This, of course, was in violation of the rights of English subjects, and John Wilkes knew that. He brought suit against Lord Halifax, and he was awarded thousands of pounds, a lot of money in those days. By doing that, he became a hero on both sides of the Atlantic. And his story was very familiar to the American people, and I have no doubt that that helped inspire the adoption of the Fourth Amendment. We desperately need the Fourth Amendment right now. It's been overlooked, it's been trampled on in meaningful ways, in ways that closely reflect what happened to John Wilkes. The use of things like general warrants and writs of assistance, while they don't exist under those titles today, exist today in the form of Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. Anytime you authorize the government to go and collect information on American citizens without a warrant, and then you allow them to search those databases and the contents of those phone calls without a warrant, you've got a problem. It's not unreasonable what we're asking, but let me tell you what you're going to continue to hear as we march toward the December 31st expiration deadline for FISA 702. You're going to hear things like, this will make it too hard for the government. It will be more difficult for the government to get the information that it wants. Well, big surprise. That's the whole point of the Fourth Amendment. The whole point of having a Constitution is to make certain things more difficult for the government to carry out. Why? Well, because we all benefit when we do, and because bad things happen when they don't. When governments are left out of control, horrible things happen. Take the fact that we've overlooked other parts of our Constitution, like the limited enumerated powers, implicit in the concept of federalism and explicit in the 10th Amendment. Since the late 1930s, we've pretended as if there is no limit to federal power. Since at least the 1970s, we pretended as if there is functionally no limit to the amount of money we spend. Those two things together, they're deadly. And they're exactly what has produced today, after decades of inflationary spending and years of multi-trillion-dollar deficits, a situation in which the American poor and middle-class family is being choked, taking on an additional $1,000 a month in basic monthly expenses, just because people in Washington want the momentary rush that comes from the momentary praise that comes from spending other people's money beyond what they actually have. Shame on them, shame on us to the extent we've enabled them. The way this has worked over and over again is the law firm. Until recently, I called it the law firm of Schumer, McConnell, McCarthy, and Jeffries. I won't throw Mike Johnson's name in there, at least not yet, because he's not been there long enough. I hope he doesn't join the firm. But the firm will come up with a spending bill that spends too much, that they throw on us at the very last minute with nobody having a chance to read it. And this is why we're $33.5 trillion in debt. This is why we're spending now at a rate of about $1 trillion a year just in interest on our national debt, up from $350 billion a year just a few years ago. The American people can't handle this anymore. They need FISA reauthorization to occur only with stringent conditions, like those found in the Government Surveillance Reform Act. That should be passed. We've got time to pass it. There's no reason for a temporary extension. We need to do it now. And we need to decide now that we're going to cut spending dramatically. We've got to do these things and make sure that we get aid to our allies in Israel without costing any money. The only reason that isn't law right now is because of Democrats in the Senate. It's passed the House. It could go to the president's desk. It could become law tonight, and the thing is paid for. The only people standing between us are Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden, who won't let it move. Shame on them.